What's up guys, Ernest Langdon with Langdon Tactical, and we want to talk about, or I'd like to give you some information about how you can configure and set up your tactical shotgun. And the first thing I want to talk about is options for you setting up your side saddle. Now right now I just have birdshot on here because I'm not trying to spend a lot of money doing this. The way this one is configured is I've got 4 of the shells pointing down and 2 of the shells pointing up. There's a couple of reasons that we might do that. The shells pointing down makes it a lot easier for me to pull a shell out and then put it directly into the tube. So that allows me the quicker load into the tube from the bottom, which is the most logical place for it to come from. The 2 shells pointing up can be pointed up for 2 different reasons depending on specifically what you're doing. One reason is that is one of the ways that a lot of people prefer to reload the shotgun when the bolt is empty or the gun's empty and the bolt is locked to the rear. The other reason we can have it set up that way is that may be different types of ammunition, meaning I could have buckshot down here on the bottom and I might have 2 slugs up here on the top, and it allows me to quickly understand that this is different ammunition and I don't accidentally load it into the gun when I'm trying to do something different. So that's the way you can set up your side saddle. If you just prefer to use this to load into the tube, you can reconfigure it to where all of your shells are in the same direction. If you're using the same ammunition, that is fine. And we'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about reloading next. When we start talking about reloading the shotgun, there's a couple of different options here, but this is something that's going to be a personal preference or choice for you, and some of it's going to depend on the weight of the shotgun and your strength, okay? So one of the things we can do is we can actually reload the shotgun from this gun in the stock position. But this is going to get tiring very quickly if you have a heavy shotgun or if you're lacking strength. So one of the things you can do is bring that shotgun in, you kind of tuck the butt into your armpit. That's going to give you a lot more leverage, and it's going to take a lot less strength to hold that shotgun up while you're reloading it, and then you're still very quick to get back up on target. So now we've emptied out the gun here. Let's talk through a couple of your options on how we reload the gun, both from keeping the gun fed and from an emergency reload where I'm out of ammunition and the bolt is to the rear. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna load a shell up into the chamber because that's where we're gonna start from. There's a couple different ways that we can do that. We can come underneath, where we kind of cup the shell. We're holding in between the pinky and the index finger, and I have good control of it, and I can kind of roll it into the ejection port and then hit the bolt latch and send it forward. The other option is to come over the top. Same thing applies though. I still want to control that shell, because if I'm not careful, I can come over the top, I miss that ejection port, now the shell goes on the ground. So I would highly recommend when you're practicing this to turn the gun a little bit so that the ejection port is pointing up a little bit and you're letting gravity be your friend. We can put that shell in the chamber. And then when you release the bolt, you want to make sure your hand is out of the way. Otherwise, the charging handle is going to come up and it's going to stop, keep the gun out of battery, and it may not load correctly. So make sure your fingers are cupped up out of the way when you hit that bolt release. So again, let's throw a shell into the chamber and let's put one into the tube. All right, so I've only got 2 shells in the shotgun. We're gonna live fire this. I'm gonna walk you through a couple of things that you can practice on the range. So to start with, 2 shells in the gun, I'm gonna fire a shot and then load a shot. Okay, so I come up, get my good firing position, fire a shot, come down, and then load a shot into the tube. I can do that, and that gets me used to keeping that gun loaded. Okay, now eventually when you're shooting a shotgun, you run out of ammunition and the bolt locks to the rear. Okay, so I'm going to shoot 2 shots now. That should lock the gun to the rear. Okay, bolt locks to the rear. I have 2 major options that I can choose here. The first option is to pull a shell out of the top, come over the top, hit my bolt release, and now the gun's ready to fire again. Now at this point I can start loading shells into the tube, or if I need to, I'm in a hurry, I can come back up and fire that next shot. I'm in the same configuration. The other option I have, especially if I've got shells in the back pointing down, I can grab those shells, come underneath, press that shell and fire that one. And then the last one, if you've taken the time to configure a match saver onto your shotgun, I can have a shell right there where I can pull it back, throw it in the chamber, same kind of thing where I'm cupping it and controlling it, throw it into the chamber, hit the bolt release, and then I've got my last shell there. So those are the kind of things that you can practice when you're on the range to learn how to keep it fed. Relatively low capacity gun, so we need to practice keeping this gun loaded when we're trying to use it for the purposes it's intended for. Guys, if you have questions, drop them below. We'll try to get back to you really quickly. Train hard, stay safe. We'll see you next time. To keep up to date, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. For questions, go to langdontactical.com. And to keep up to date with all the new stuff from Langdon Tactical, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Langdon Tactical.